Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is part one, and my email address to send your compositions is cmwicher@bellsouth.net. This is Ventures 4. Today is April 21st, 2020. This is part one. So before each lesson, please be sure that you have both your student book and your workbook and your notebook plus pencil and a glass of water in front of you to do the lesson. Okay, here we go. We're going to use the student book first, but before we do, I would like to go over the vocabulary that we're going to encounter while reading and listening to the first part of the lesson. So the first phrase is within walking distance. What is it? That's right, within walking distance. So what does that mean exactly? Far away or not too far away? That's right, not too far away. The next one, impacted. Impact. What kind of an impact did it have? What is it? Okay, it is the effect that one thing has on another thing, or one person has on another person. The next word, primary. What is it? That's right. So it's the most important. It's the first. Primary grades. First, second, and third. Most important, the first ones. Next, overtake. That's right. Overtake. What does it mean? You go ahead and become number one. There's something here already. You're catching up, and finally you go past them. So you have overtaken someone, or technology has overtaken older technology. The next, classified ad. That's right, classified ad. This was a thing for sale in the section of a newspaper. So I think that online they probably still have classified sections. They're in a class by themselves. They're divided according to themes or main topics. The next, voiceover. That's right, voiceover. That means an unseen person is doing the talking for a presentation or a movie. The person who's actually being videoed or is in the picture is not doing the talking. Someone else is doing the talking. Next. Oh, that's it. Okay. So what we're going to do next is to take our student book and open to page 76. Let's read the words in the little red box first. Everyone, the first paragraph usually identifies the topic, and the last paragraph often repeats the main idea. So when you're writing a composition, you are to do the same. The first sentence is the topic, the last one repeats the main idea or gives a summary of what it is that you're talking about. Next, the paragraphs between provide details about the main idea. Before you read the article, skim. Go over the top. Look for the most important words. Read the first and last paragraph and the first sentence of the paragraphs in between. Okay, let's do that. First sentence, changes in technology can change people's lives. Last sentence, okay, also remember, you're supposed to be reading this out loud, not in your mind, but out loud. In what other ways do you think technology may change people's lives in the future? And then it's suggested that we read the topic sentence of each paragraph. The first, the development of transportation, trains, cars, and planes provides us with one example. Second paragraph, technical changes also have impacted the media. For example, how we get the news. Next paragraph, media has also changed the way people get jobs. Next paragraph. Another example of the impact of technology is how people pay for goods and services. So now we have a general idea of what it is that we're going to be reading or listening to in this article. So the first thing I would like to do is turn on my tape, and I want you to listen, and we're going to go through half of the listening on this particular article.
Exercise 2. Change people's lives. The development of transportation, trains, cars, and planes, provides us with one example. Before the 19th century, most people lived within walking distance of work. In the 20th century, many people began to commute between home and work because trains and cars connected cities with suburbs. Today, because of airplanes, many people travel great distances
listening,
for their
not
work.
reading.
Some, because of the internet, don't need to travel at all. Technological changes have also impacted the media. For example, how we get the news. Newspapers were once people's primary source for the news. In 1965, 72% of Americans reported that they read a newspaper on an average day. By 2005, that number was down to 50%. In the past, a common way people got news was by listening to the radio. I suppose nearly everyone had a radio then. By the 1950s, television was overtaking radio. Now, even the number of people watching the news on television has declined, dropping from 60% in 1993 to 28% in 2006. So what's the latest source for news? The web. The number of Americans who use the internet to get the news is increasing. Most people access the news on their smartphones. Media has also changed the way we get.
Okay, so these are two ways that technology has changed people's lives. How many people understood 100% of what they heard? How many people think about this? How many people understood 80% of what they heard? How many people understood 50% of what they heard? Okay, so before we do that, we're going to go over the vocabulary one more time, and then we're going to read together, and I would like you to pay attention to the places where you did not understand. First, within walking distance. Next, impacted. Next, primary. Next, overtake. Next, classified ad. Next, voiceover. Okay, here we go. Page 76, we're going to read out loud. Changes in technology can change people's lives. The development of transportation, trains, cars, and planes, provides us with one example. Before the 19th century, most people lived within walking distance of work. In the 20th century, many people began to commute between home and work because trains and cars connected cities with suburbs. Today, because of airplanes, many people travel great distances for their work. Some, because of the internet, don't need to travel at all. Technological changes have also impacted the media. That word was technological. Pronunciation, technological. That sentence again, please. Technological changes have also impacted the media. For example, how we get the news. Newspapers were once people's primary source for the news. In 1965, 72% of Americans reported that they read a newspaper on an average day. By 2005, that number was down to 50%. In the past, a common way people got news was by listening to the radio. I suppose nearly everyone had a radio by then. Notice the word I suppose. Next, by the 1950s, television was overtaking radio. Now, even the number of people watching the news on television has declined, dropping from 60% in 1993 to 20% in 2006. So, what's the latest source for the news? The web. The number of Americans who use the internet to get the news is increasing. Most people access the news on their smartphones. Okay, so now we're going to turn to the listening part, and we're going to listen to the rest of the article.
Page 76.
Oh,
Exercise 2.
Changes in technology can change.
Okay, so that did not save at the place where I wanted it to save. So what we're going to do for the rest of this video is answer the questions that relate to the first part. When I come back, we will be beginning to read at the second part of the CD. So if you would please take your books and turn to page 77. At the top of the page, it says, check your understanding. So we're going to do the questions that related to what we just heard. Okay, so it says, in what 4 areas does the author provide examples of how technology has changed people's lives? Please go to the opposite page and find 4 areas. Okay, this is what I got. Transportation, media, jobs, and how to pay for goods and services. Anybody else have any other ideas? I'm not going to. Okay, number 2. What statistic does the article give to support the statement that the number of people who get their news through the newspaper has declined? Okay, so that's in paragraph 2. And I hope you're going to be reading along with me. In 1965, 72% of Americans reported that they read a newspaper on an average day. By 2005, that number was down to 50%. Okay, number 3. According to the author, nearly everyone had a radio in the past. What phrase does the article use that tells you whether this is fact or opinion? That's right. It's the word I suppose. That just means I think. It is my opinion. Great. Next, sometimes the text provides examples that help us understand the meaning of a word. What examples does this text give for media? How we get the news. Okay, the next one, actually, we're not going to do that because we haven't listened to the text. What I would like to do is assign homework, and that homework is going to be in the workbook. And what I would like you to do is turn to page 72, and this QR, would you please listen to this at home and then do the page. So the homework is page 72. Okay, see you for the next section.
Media has also changed the
Here
way
we are.
get jobs. We used to look for job openings in the classified ads of a newspaper. Then mail an application through the U.S. Postal Service, now called Snail Mail by some. Finally, if we were lucky enough to get an interview, we'd go to the job site. Today, we can find notices for jobs online, and we can submit our applications over the internet. The employer can even interview us over the internet using programs such as Skype that provide voiceover and video over calls. These changes save time for both the employer and the applicant. Another example of the impact of technology is how we pay for goods and services. Until the mid-1940s, people had to carry large amounts of cash in their purses and wallets. Then, one day in 1949, a man named Frank McNamara took some business associates to dinner, but he left his wallet at home. He had to call his wife to bring him money to pay the bill. Mr. McNamara vowed to find a way to avoid carrying cash. Although some stores already had their own charge cards, there was no single, multi-purpose credit card. A year later, he returned to the same restaurant with the same people, but paid with the credit card he had created, called Diners Club. Today, people don't even need to carry a credit card. They can pay with their smartphones. In what other ways do you think technology may change our lives in the future?
Okay, so that was the other half of page 76 in your student book. You were supposed to be listening. Now let's open to page 76 and we're going to read out loud together. The words that might give some problem and misunderstanding I've written on the board. One is snail mail. Does everybody know what snail mail is? Yes, that's letters that you get in the mail. And they're usually obviously much slower than the internet. So another idiomatic expression that is very similar to that in meaning I've written on the board is slow as molasses. Something that is really, really slow can also be said to be slow as molasses. So what is molasses? That's right. Molasses is a dark brown syrup that comes from sugar after the sugar is refined. And it's very thick and very syrupy, so it is very slow. Okay, let's get back to page 76. Media has also changed the way people get jobs. People used to look for